When we married, we decided not to fully combine our finances. We have a shared account in which I fund 3/4 and she fund 1/4. We use this account to pay the mortgage, utilities, grocery, etc. We also have our separate accounts where we deposit the rest of our money. We're responsible for our own investments and cars. Things worked well for a couple of years until recently when she came to me crying. It turns out my wife is not good with her money and owes $150,000 spread over several credit cards and her car loan. Unless she wins the lottery, there's no way she would be able to pay off her debt, and I didn't want her to mess up her credit by declaring bankruptcy. I decided to loan her the money to pay off the debt on strict conditions. I will take over her finances, including receiving her income. She will be placed on a strict allowance and budget. She will have to ask permission to buy anything over $50 and have to go by my judgment. Once she pays me back the money, she can take control of her own finances. She argued against the conditions until I pointed out I don't have $150,000 in cash stuff in the couch. I will have to sell some assets including stocks that are currently performing well. If I loan her the money, it will cost me money. She finally agreed. This weekend we were at a dinner party where after too many drinks, some of the women decided they wanted to take a girls' trip a few weekends from now. My wife turned to ask me if she could go and I answered no, it's not in her budget. I'll spare you the details of the argument that erupted, but the TLDR version is that I'm a misogynist pig who keeps her on a leash. Some argued I should have bailed her out without conditions because there should be none in a marriage. The hurtful part is that she didn't once defend me. Edit: when I got home from work, she started another round of arguments about the trip. I pointed out she has no money, at which point she pointed out that she hasn't hit the limit on one of her credit card and that card should cover her for a weekend. So I drove back to my office and will spend the night here. To answer some of your questions. Our shared account pays for everything in the house. For example, a few weeks ago we bought a new cookware set from Costco and that money came from the shared account. She works a full-time job. Minus her contribution to the shared account, the rest of her income is hers to spend as she wishes. I cover things we do together like dinners, dates, and vacations. The principal amount she owes is about $120,000, of which about half is her car loan. The rest consist of interests and late fees. We've been married for less than 5 years and do not have children. We talked about starting a family in a couple of years. Comment 1. NTA. Your wife is seriously irresponsible and it seems that when you bailed her out she didn't learn a lesson. She and her friends put you on the spot like that, hoping the pressure would force you to say yes. A normal person would have realized the mess they had made and realized they can't spend frivolously with $150K debt hanging over their heads, but this just shows your wife's attitude. Good luck getting your money back. Comment 2. NTA. I think you are handling this absolutely correctly, taking her paycheck and all. I don't give a damn if her credit card debt is only in her name. She is risking both of your futures and retirement by being so irresponsible. She needs to receive some counseling for possible shopping addiction. You are a good man for not jumping straight to the thought of divorce and seeing this as a team problem. You haven't even mentioned if you'll have kids and how she is risking their futures too. Comment 3. NTA. Get professional help. You sound decently good with finances, but you're far too close to the situation. When you're literally receiving your wife's money and telling her how she can spend it. I understand you have a very good reason, but this is a very slippery slope and especially out of context, is going to raise some major red flags. Get a professional involved, someone who can say no to your wife and not worry about the backlash, someone who isn't sleeping with her and couldn't be construed to have ulterior motives. A few months ago, I, 16M, was going to the store and my brother, 15M, told me that he wanted to ride. When we got in the car, my brother asked me if he could drive us to the store. I at first told him no because I was already in the driver's seat, but then he kept begging and I was like, all right. The store was literally 3 minutes away by car, so I didn't think it'll be a problem since my brother was already trying to get his permit, so we switched seats. We did not make it to the store that day. My brother put the car in reverse instead of drive and reserved the car into a fucking tree. He didn't even go slow either. He caused my car to have a broken taillight, a lot of scratches and 2 big ash dents. My dad was pissed and grounded us and took our phones away, which I felt was unfair. We had to ride the bus to and from school until I was able to get my car back. A little over a month ago I finally got my car back and my phone, and I was happy until my dad told me that I would have to get a job because I needed to pay him back the money he lost. I was understanding at first and asked him if my brother would need to get a job too, but he told me no since it was my car and told me that I shouldn't have let him drive without having a permit in the first place. I really felt like this was unfair and told my dad that, but he told me that it wasn't unfair and that I should take responsibility for my actions. I told my dad that I feel like I'm getting punished over my brother's mistake, and I don't like that. He told me that it wasn't a punishment and it's to teach me responsibility. My dad told me how he understands how it might look unfair, but I have to take responsibility for my actions. He said it was my responsibility as the owner of the car since I allowed him to drive it. I told my dad that I only agreed to let him drive it because he was already going to class to get his permit and that the store wasn't far away. My dad told me that that was my mistake and I have to own it. I have been working for 3 weeks now and I hate it. I work Fridays, Sundays, and on Friday of last week I was driving my brother and I home from school and he looked at me with a smirk and told me that he hopes I have fun at work today. I ignored him and then he said it again, and so I pulled over and told him to get the fuck out. He refused and I told him we were just gonna sit until he does. After about 10 minutes of sitting he finally got out and I drove home to get ready for work. After I returned home from work my dad had already made it and he was mad at me. He told me that my brother told him that I left him on the side of the road and told me it was dangerous of me. I told my dad that I didn't care and I don't want him riding with me anymore. My dad got upset when I said that and told me that it was irresponsible of me to let my brother walk home alone and told me that if I didn't apologize he'll take away my phone. So I was basically forced to apologize to him. My dad then told me that I wasn't allowed to leave my brother stranded again and I told him that he wouldn't have to worry as I would just ride the bus home. My dad asked me if I was seriously gonna ride the bus just to avoid having to drive my brother and I told him that I was. I don't think my dad thought I was serious because this morning I decided to ride the bus to school so my brother was forced to ride the bus as well. I didn't think much of it since I had already told him I wouldn't be using my car to ride to school anymore, but my dad sent me a text telling me that we're gonna have a tour when he gets home from work. I don't think I did anything wrong and I'm confused. Comment 1. NTA. Your brother is acting like an a-hole, and your dad is apparently fine with it since brother has received 0 repercussions for his own behavior. You found the loophole you needed to get out of driving him around, good for you. If I were your parent, I wouldn't make you drive your brother around until he learned how to act like a decent human being. Comment 2. I think you're going to get some mixed results here, because your dad's right about one thing: the damage to your car is 100% your fault. Not your brother's, not your dad's. Your job is the car. You made a terrible decision in letting your brother drive it, end of story. However, refusing to drive your brother is entirely your prerogative, and if that takes away your driving permissions, then so be it. Leaving him stranded was kind of an move, but opting to take the bus rather than drive him isn't. I'm gonna go with ESH. Stick to your guns, but still cop to your mistakes. I, 26F, gave birth to my second child 2 days ago. It was a beautiful home birth, so I was never discharged from the hospital. With my first and this pregnancy I made it clear to my husband I wanted to follow the 5-5-5 rule. He seemed to drag his feet, but because he wanted kids more than I did he agreed. I still love my kids dearly and wouldn't not have them now, I just didn't want to go through pregnancy. First 5 days in bed. Nothing but skin to skin with my daughter, breastfeeding, and resting. Next 5 days on bed. Sitting up, still breastfeeding, cuddling with baby, doing homework with my son, crossword puzzles, etc. Next 5 after that around bed. Still majority resting but doing light chores, folding laundry, diaper changing, just not standing for more than 30 minutes. All while still cuddling with baby, breastfeeding baby, doing homework with my son and coloring. This baby is very colicky, and my husband is the one having to get out of bed, walk around with her and sit in the rocking chair, do diapers and take her and our son on walks to get some sunshine. Our son, 5, has started acting out at home due to the stress of the new baby and lack of sleep. We've offered him going to my parents next door and he seems interested. We've prepared a month's worth of freezer meals, so for dinner all he has to do is throw the disposable tin in the oven and walk away for a few hours. We have more than enough disposable dishwasher. We have a dog he needs to feed and take out in walks with the kids. Today he came to me crying, saying it was all too much and he couldn't do this by himself. I reminded him that he agreed to it and I have to go back to work shortly after the 555 is up, so I need to be as rested and healed as possible so I can better perform tasks at work, then come home and perform tasks as well. He begged me to help out with our son, who will not sit still, and help with light cleaning, wiping countertops, gathering clutter into a pile, etc. I again said no, I am entitled to rest and I will help around the house in 8 days. Edit to add, I'm not looking for advice on the 555 method. Comment 1, NTA. But, unless you're very healthy, under 35, BMI under 30, have had less than 3-term pregnancies, with no history of smoking/diabetes/varicose veins/Crohn's or IBS/prolonged hospitalization/surgical procedures, or any family history of non-surgery related DVTS, you'll need to mobilize a little. If you get a deep vein thrombosis, have a stroke or a pulmonary embolism, that'll really ruin your maternity leave. The blood gets extra sticky during late pregnancy to compensate for and reduce blood loss at birth. If you're genuinely barely moving for 15 days and have any of the above conditions, your risk of having a stroke, as a result of that extra sticky blood not being pushed around your veins from movement and causing clots, is very high. Please mobilize. Comment 2. NTA. Retired nurse here and just want to offer a caution. 5 days in bed after delivery results in a large risk for blood clots and complications even after an uncomplicated delivery, at home or hospital. I understand the need for you to spend time with newborn bonding, getting your milk supply established, and getting needed rest. I agree the husband should be prepared to take care of the household duties, including care of your other child. Please make sure you do get up and move around. And it would be perfectly acceptable to hire a cleaning service for 2 to 3 times a week if you can afford it. Baby clothes pile up quickly, right? 2 months into my boyfriend and I dating last year, his parents decided to go to their motherland to build their retirement home after James, my boyfriend, reassured them that he'll look after his 16-year-old sister Chloe and they'll be fine. His mom was concerned about leaving them alone, but he had expressed to her that he'll have my help with things like cooking because I had told him I'd help out. It's now a year later, and his parents' summer trip has turned into a year of being gone. Initially I would go over and help make dinner for him and his sister 1 to 3 times a week. This slowly turned into his sister being part of everything we do. If I were to do anything for him, I'd have to consider Chloe, and it began feeling like I was a stepmom. His sister would expect me to buy her things and do things for her. I'm very giving, but the expectation bothered me a lot. Things really came to head last fall when James' parents suggested getting a dog to help with Chloe's anxiety and depression. I expressed to James my opposition to this because the dog would eventually be his and we're planning on living together soon. I do not want a dog at all. I want the liberty for us to travel and feel that would be an unnecessary expense, to which he agreed. Fast forward to Christmas when James and Chloe went to visit their parents. They ended up getting the puppy that is now back with them in the US. I'd also like to add, James and Chloe don't cook or clean their house because their mom always did everything, and this bothered me a lot because James mentioned how his mom figured I would help them out. James has expressed and admitted that getting the dog while trying to progress his career, since this has been a lot more work than he thought, and he wasn't prepared for this even though I had told him this plenty of times. Once James got the dog, I expressed to James that I feel like a stepmom and will not be participating in helping out anymore, and that if he's not going to consider what I have to say, then I have no reason to help or participate in the house. Now his mom thinks I'm not a good girlfriend, and I'm wondering if I'm the asshole for not wanting to step into this responsibility that in my opinion has dragged on far too long. His parents left their anxious and depressed teenager and expect me to step in as if that's not their responsibility. Am I wrong for putting my foot down? Comment 1, 2 months into dating? He and his parents, assumed his new girlfriend would step in and help parent his sister. Wow. I'm sorry, but why are you still with him? Your stepmom, cook, housekeeper, and what are you getting out of this? You told him you won't be participating anymore in helping. Make sure you follow through. His sister is not your responsibility, and I don't think you signed on for this when you decided to date him. You've let yourself be taken advantage of long enough. Stand up for yourself and, if necessary, move on with your life without him. And all the baggage that comes with him. Or this will be your present and your future. NTA. Comment 2. NTA. Looks like your boyfriend's parents dumped their daughter on you and your boyfriend permanently. My question is, did your boyfriend know this ahead of time? Even if not, you are not married and not his sister's caregiver. The fact he went and got a dog when you said you didn't want one and it would be too much work is insane. I'd suggest taking a break from this relationship and think things over. Actually, my first thought was run. But I'm trying to be kinder here. Comment 3. NTA. You're basically their new mom and they are not respecting your boundaries. You should get out of here now.